Hello, good afternoon. This is Talking Jobs with me, rbromnick. Today's recording is part of a series that we're calling Follow Your Passion, and I'm interviewing students, alumni and colleagues who all have got different passions that have come into play with their work and they're keen to talk about. So here with me today is Maddi Pownall. Welcome back to Lincoln, Maddi.
Thank you very much.
And
Hello.
Your passion, as I'm listing it, is with writing about psychology. So I think what we're going to talk about today is some of the work that you've done and some of the groups you're involved with, and seeing if we can maybe inspire others to take pen to paper.
Yeah, I think, I got inspired to write purely in the beginning by the Psychologist magazine, which is the monthly magazine of the BPS.
Right.
And I really like the kind of writing that they promote, which is it's somewhere in between writing a blog for a really wide audience on the internet and writing a kind of academic essay piece of work. It's kind of somewhere that fits really nicely in between, because what I was finding is I love writing essays. I really enjoyed that part of my degree, but I kind of wanted a way of communicating the ideas that I had that was kind of free from some of the restraints of academic writing.
Okay.
So things like in academic writing, you wouldn't really expect someone to write in the first person or say, I think this and this is why everyone else should think this, and you kind of can't be
it's quite constrained by style, isn't it?
Exactly. So that's why I really like that way of writing. So how it kind of started for me was I saw in the Psychologist when I was in first year, they had a feature thing that they were doing called New Voices.
Right.
And they just wanted people who haven't written before to write something about something that was interesting.
I think they do a lot of encouragement for new writers with the BPS. Yeah,
they do. So something that I'm running at the moment, kind of on the back of that, is called the Voices in Psychology programme, the VIP programme. Get it? So that is a programme, and we're asking people to write a response to the question, what makes a psychologist, and submit it, and that's it. So it doesn't have to be kind of academic, and it doesn't have to be particularly formal. It's just about how people interpret that brief to be. So when I started, for the New Voices edition, however many years ago, 3 years ago, I wrote about, have you heard of slam poetry? Or it was like performance poetry.
Okay.
So I used to always watch these YouTube videos about performance poetry and thought they were really cool, and they were like these really cool kind of feminist people doing these really passionate
Does slam mean
poems.
something? That's not an acronym or anything.
No, I don't know. I don't know what it means. Slam. It's quite they're very raucous and kind of quite exciting events. Usually in America. So I wrote this piece about how slam poetry and performance poetry could be applied to psychology and to teaching. So I think that's quite a nice example, because it's about taking something that I was really interested in, in my head. And in my head that wasn't really related to my degree or to academia or to essays. But you can kind of run with it and do something with whatever you're interested in.
You can find a sort of psychology angle or something. I think a lot of people start psychology because there's things that interest them that maybe don't feature in the curriculum. So some people are interested in things like, serial killers or jealousy or these kind of big themes of life. And I think that magazine for the Psychologist, it does give you a chance that maybe your degree doesn't, because as you say, you have to very formal structure about neurotransmitters or whatever it is.
And I think what it does is it
have a bit of fun is what I'm saying, a bit of fun with psychology.
Exactly, and it doesn't have to be on the syllabus, and it doesn't have to be something that you're learning, but I think it's kind of about taking the way of thinking that your degree kind of instills in you and thinking a bit critically and a bit creatively and applying that to literally anything that you are interested in. So something that I do a lot at the moment, which I really enjoy, which is quite nerdy, but I really enjoy, is writing like psychologically informed reviews of like film or TV. And I think it's one of those things that as soon as you start thinking in that kind of way, when you're like watching a new film or watching a TV programme, you kind of, it helps you understand a bit more about psychology, because it's a bit more tangible and it's a bit more real, and it's a bit more fun as well.
But it could help people's studies, I think, because if you look at like our marking scheme, you get like a 2-1 for being critical. But if you look at those very top first-class marks, that's about being critical and creative.
Yeah.
So having that ability, people might call it psychological literacy, which I know you've written about, but that psychological literacy of taking a topic and thinking, well, how does this or could it relate to psychology?
Yeah, exactly.
I think could have a payback for your formal writing.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like when I was in second year, and I was doing some of the teaching that we'd had was about body image, and about like people's relationship with their body and social psychology, and then there was all these really, really good BBC Three documentaries about young people's body image and some stuff about eating disorders. And I think when you can kind of take what you've learnt in a lecture and then take something that's happening in kind of the real world and marry the two together, everything kind of comes alive a bit for me.
Right, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
And what other sort of writing, you know, if somebody wanted to follow in your footsteps, because there's Psych Talk, isn't there?
Yes, so that's the BPS student version of The Psychologist.
Right, that might be a good starting point for people.
I think that's a really good starting point. So that is, the editorial team are all psychology undergraduates.
Right, so somebody could be involved with that.
Yeah, definitely. So it's kind of governed by the BPS student committee, and it's one of their outputs, and I think it's about every like 3 to 4 times a year they publish it.
Okay.
But they publish book reviews and film reviews and conference reports, and articles about literally anything.
Written by students for students.
Yeah, all by students, written for students, by students. Editorial board is all students, so it's very kind of student focused publication.
What would you recommend to somebody that like had a real sort of interesting idea, like that I want to write about Wimbledon from a psychology point of view or something, because you know I'm a sports fan.
Yeah.
You know, if they had like an idea, do you think they should just write it, or is there someone that would offer some mentoring or that could talk to them about how good their idea was, or
I think
somebody had an idea?
My approach is always to kind of write about it, get it all on a page, create something tangible, and then kind of think about whether it's any good afterwards. I think that one of the things that is kind of a good thing, because it's what we'd expect in more academic writing, like essays or reports, is that people tend to overthink what they're writing and want to have a kind of plan and a structure, and then it takes away that kind of like spontaneity.
It takes away your freedom, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think that just to kind of sit and give yourself the freedom that like you can write something, it doesn't have to even be published anywhere, and it doesn't even have to be any good, but it's just about writing something and kind of
if you believe in it.
And you can just kind of sort of explore your ideas with yourself in written form and have something.
I think people use it for therapy, don't they? Writing is therapy, really like with blogs or diaries or that sort of thing.
I can really see that, and I think blogging is also a really, really good way of kind of creating something and putting something out there, but that's not necessarily governed or restricted in any way. So I had a blog throughout the 3 years of my degree.
Right.
And I really loved it for that, because it's a lot more kind of instant, and there's no editor telling you that your sentence is wrong.
You're free, aren't you? Because when you write when I write academic stuff, I shouldn't say when I write it, I'm often like, consequently, Jones. No. However, you know, you get real bogged down, don't you, with the very formal academic language and can be stifling.
Yeah, and it just doesn't have to be like that. I think that's kind of, if there's one take-home message from this whole thing, it's that writing doesn't have to follow that format, and writing as a kind of concept doesn't have to be something that's super academic and kind of scary, and that's governed in a really kind of tight way with certain requirements.
Right, and publishing doesn't have to be just in peer-reviewed journals. There's
definitely.
People in our community of psychology that want to hear what people have to say, and there's ways to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So to sum up, people can go to Psych Talk, the magazine.
Yes.
There's also the Psychologist, and they should look out for this VIP.
Yep, the VIP programme. If you Google it.
And what was the title again of the challenge for?
So the prompt this year is what makes a psychologist.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And that closes in September 2019.
It closes at the end of 2019, so you've got until the rest of the year.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So good luck with your writing.
Thank you very much.
Anyone listening, get writing. It can help your academic studies. It can be liberating.
Yes.
A bit of fun.
Yeah,
really funny.
Yeah.
A girl in my degree, she wrote this really funny article called The Locust of Control. So, have a bit of fun with your psychology and follow your passion.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.